This is your one and only FireSpark81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and today we are taking a look at the best Illithid abilities in Baldur's Gate 3. Let's get to it. Quick note before we get into it, these are in no particular order other than we are going to cover the inner tier and then the outer ones that you have to do a specific thing in the story to unlock. Everybody should get access to the inner tier relatively early on in the game, and you should continue to have access to it throughout the better part of the game. So we're going to start off with the inner tier, and the first one we're taking a look at in the inner tier is the Charm ability. This one is absolutely fantastic, and I highly advise getting it as soon as you're able to. It states, channel the dark allure of the tadpole to charm an enemy that attacks you, preventing them from attacking you until their next turn. So essentially what this does is it keeps enemies from attacking you twice. You're going to quickly start to run into enemies that have multiple attacks on one turn, and this, if you manage to pull it off, because they can save from it, but if you do manage to land it and they fail their saving throw, they get charmed and they cannot continue to attack you, which means they have to move to another target. And if that target also has the charm ability, that means they're going to hit that target, possibly get charmed and shut down as well, forcing them to move on to another one if they have more than 2 attacks in one turn. This also means if you manage to pull this off, they cannot take advantage attacks on you. So if they are charmed and you are standing next to them because they do not move to another target for whatever reason, you can just walk away from them and they will not be able to attack you. And the best part about this is that it is a reaction ability and you can just use it every single turn. It has no cooldown other than being a reaction ability. I highly advise picking this one up, and on characters that you're not going to really worry about their attacks of advantage on, so like your casters and things like that, I would just turn it on and make it automatic and not even worry about it. On some of your other characters, you may want to have the game actually ask you if you want to use the ability or not, because then you need to weigh whether or not an advantage attack is going to be more powerful in the situation that you're in than the charm ability. But in most cases, they won't move away from you unless they cannot attack you if they are already attacking you, so charm is probably a good way to go. Lucky for you, leading into charm is another really good ability, and that is Favorable Beginnings. This is another ability that doesn't have a cooldown other than its one-off effect when you are interacting in a certain situation. Favorable Beginnings reads, the first attack roll or ability check you make against a target gains a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus. This is fantastic, especially for the face of the party, for when you're going into those ability checks, you get a bonus to that ability check based on your proficiency bonus. Now, this will only work for your first ability check in that situation, so if you're doing multiple persuasions in a row, you're only going to get it on your first one, but it can definitely help to get you off on a good foot. During combat, this is an absolutely amazing ability, helping to ensure that you land those attacks when you first start combat, and it's per target. It says the first attack roll or ability check you make against any target. So this is every time you attack a new target during combat, you're going to get this proficiency bonus when you make your first attack, helping to ensure that you get off to a favorable beginning in that combat situation. And it's one of those abilities that just helps set you up for success no matter what situation that you're in. Next, we have Psionic Backlash. This one is fantastic as well for multiple reasons. States that when an enemy within 9 meters, and this is how far 9 meters is in case you are wondering, so it's not too crazy far, but it is a pretty decent distance. When an enemy within 9 meters casts a spell, you can use your reaction to inflict 1d4 psionic damage to the caster per the spell level. So if they're casting a tier 1 spell, it's just 1 to 4 damage. If they're casting a tier 2 spell, it's 2 to 8 damage, and so on and so on and so on. Now, why this is really good is because if they are casting a concentration spell, you can immediately inflict damage on them, giving you a chance to instantly break their concentration on that spell. Now, of course, they can save from this, but it is definitely helpful and worth taking that chance on to help instantly break that concentration. Now, do note that this is a reaction, so this will use up your reaction, preventing you from using charm during that turn. So you are going to have to make a decision on whether or not you want to save your reaction for charm or use this one instead. So it's going to be a very situational thing. But honestly, I would only really advise using using this when the target is casting a concentration spell. If you can instantly cause them to lose their concentration on a very strong spell right after they cast it, it is definitely worth using your reaction to do so. Keep in mind that once you pick up Psionic Backlash, I would make sure to go into your reactions and check the little checkbox that tells you to ask to use it, and do the same for Charmed. This way you can decide on whether you want to use one of those abilities or the other, because they are both reaction abilities. And our last one for the inner tier is Stage Fright. Stage Fright is an absolutely massive AoE spell that states your targets have disadvantage on attack rolls and take 2 to 12 psychic damage each time they miss, and it lasts for 3 turns. Now, it does have a wisdom saving throw, so it is possible for them to save against this spell, but due to the fact that it's wisdom, your chances of getting this spell to stick are pretty good. It's going to cost you an action to use, and you can only use it once per battle, but it does refresh on a short rest, so you should be able to use it once per every battle, because you should be taking a short rest after every battle. Do note that targets also overcome their stage fright early when they succeed at an attack roll. However, for being able to cast this on multiple targets and having them take anywhere from 12 to 24 to even more damage per turn, depending on how many times they get to attack, and due to the fact that it causes them to attack with disadvantage, this spell is insanely strong. Onto the outer tier that is locked for everyone until they get to a certain part in the game. They get an option to unlock it. If you do unlock it, you become godlike. These powers are insanely strong. The first one we are taking a look at is Psionic Dominance. Psionic Dominance states when an enemy within 18 meters, which is an absolutely massive range, targets you with a spell of a level that is lower than or equal to your proficiency bonus, you can use your reaction to nullify the spell. Yeah, it's an instant counter spell for anything that meets that criteria. So if you have Psionic Dominance and it pops up asking you if you would like to use it, you can use it to instantly nullify that spell. If it does not pop up, Psionic Backlash should pop up, which means that you can then take a look to see what the spell is, and if it's a concentration spell, and use that to hopefully break their concentration right after they cast the spell, hopefully having the exact same effect by nullifying any negative effects you would get from that spell. Just like Psionic Backlash, Psionic Dominance only costs you your reaction, and you can use it every single time you have a reaction up and ready to use. This is one you most definitely want to make sure you grab right from the get-go. Next, we have one of my absolute favorites, which is Black Hole. Black Hole states, create a point of intense gravity that pulls all nearby enemies and possibly slows them. After the initial cast, you can then use it for 5 turns after that for your action, and it refreshes every time you take a short rest. This spell is insane. Not only does it slow them, which is great, it also causes them to group up into a centralized area, allowing you to use AoE spells when enemies are spread out. A lot of times, later on in the game especially, enemies will spread out, making it difficult to use AoE abilities to hit all of those enemies. You can use this ability to group them all up and then either use the same character, if that character is hasted, to hit them with a fireball, or your very next character in line to attack, use that character to hit them with something like a fireball, or cloud kill, or any other devastating ability that you can use to affect a large group of enemies. This spell is absolutely nutty, and I highly advise getting it. Granted, it does cost you an action to use, and it doesn't do any damage, but having the control to group up large amounts of enemies into a centralized location on the battlefield is absolutely insane, and at times will make you feel almost godlike. Let me paint a little picture for you here. You have a sorcerer, high-level sorcerer. That sorcerer has the Black Hole ability. That sorcerer is also hasted. That means the sorcerer can use the Black Hole ability on their next turn, hit all of those enemies grouped up in that area with lightning bolt or fireball, then use their quicken ability to use their bonus action to either cast the lightning bolt or fireball again on that same group of enemies, absolutely devastating them. The next ability that I highly recommend getting if you have unlocked this outer tier is the Displacer Beast Shape. This ability reads, transform into a Displacer Beast that can displace itself and enemies, and has 85 hit points. You take on the attributes of a Displacer Beast, but maintain your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. When your hit points drop to 0 in this form, you revert back to your original form. This gives you 2 entirely different health pools, just like the Druid's Wild Shape. So you got your humanoid hit point pool, and then you have your whatever form you are in this case, Displacer Beast form hit point pool. That alone is insanely strong, and we haven't even taken a look at all of the Displacer Beast's abilities yet. Now, you can only use this once per long rest, and it's going to cost you an action to use it. My advice is to use it when you are hasted, or use it before you get into combat when you know you are going to get into combat. First off, let's just talk about the Displacer Beast's normal attack. Its normal attack hits 3 times. Yes, you get 3 separate attacks with just its basic attack. This attack also has a 3-meter range, does bludgeoning and piercing damage. For bludgeoning, it rolls 2d6, and for piercing, it also rolls 2d6. You can also just create an illusionary copy pretty much anywhere you want. The range on this is absolutely massive. It does have to be in your visual range though, and you can only do this inside combat. The illusionary copy only lasts 3 turns, and it will cost you an action. However, you do have the ability to displace. Displace does 2 to 16 damage, and it does psionic damage, 2d8, and it reads, teleport yourself and a target to a nearby location, shredding the target's mind, leaving behind an illusionary copy of yourself. This also lasts 3 turns. And displace is a bonus action. So you can attack 3 times, or use your action to just create a copy of yourself next to anyone on the battlefield. Then you can use displace to displace someone on the battlefield, doing even more damage. Now, do keep in mind that your initial targeting for a displace is basically melee range. So the target that you want to warp has to be within melee range of you. However, once you have selected that target, the range at which you can warp them to is a much further range. This means you have the capability to deal up to 88 damage to a single target in 1 turn. Now, let's talk about your displaced holograms that you've left all over the battlefield. These illusionary copies of yourself cannot move around the battlefield. They are stationary. However, they have the same range that you have for their basic attack, a range of 3 meters. Anything that is within their range of attack, when it is their turn on the battlefield, they will attack it. And you can litter the battlefield with these things. Now, one thing I have noticed is that the AI seems to know that they are illusionary copies and will still target you most times. There are some occasions where they will attack the illusionary copies, but I've noticed more often than not, they will prioritize you over an illusionary copy if they can attack you. But in the end, this doesn't matter too much, because if they do manage to bring your HP down to 0, it's just going to cause you to warp back to your normal form instead of downing you. If this does happen, you will also lose all illusionary images that are on the battlefield. In order to hold those, you have to be in Displacer Beast form. I would also like to point out, you do not need to hold concentration to have those illusionary forms littering the battlefield. And the only thing that does limit them is their turn count of 3 turns. So not only is this ability absolutely insanely strong because it gives you 2 completely separate health pools, it also does really good damage, and it also allows you to go from a measly party of 4 to just littering the battlefield with an army of Displacer Beast clones, creating a situation to where no matter where the enemy moves on the battlefield, they're going to be taking attacks from attacks of opportunity, as well as attacks from every turn from some of your Displacer Beast clones. And last but not least, we have one of, if not the strongest ability that you can get, in my opinion, and that is Freecast. Freecast is currently bugged, which when you get it makes you absolutely insanely godlike. However, once they do get it fixed, it will still be strong. So currently at the time of recording this, it is bugged, and you can turn it on, and it will just allow you to do pretty much anything that you need to do that costs resources of some sorts for free infinitely until whenever you decide to turn it off. Freecast states, you have discovered a marvelous adaptability within yourself. Spell slots, charges, and similar resource costs for your next action or spell are removed. It refreshes after a short or long rest. So what this is a passive ability that you can turn on or off at any time. So when you are in combat, if you need to use this to cast something for free, you can toggle this on and then cast whatever you want to cast for absolutely free. This also works if what you are going to do or are about to do costs multiple resources. For example, a sorcerer can activate this ability, use something like Quicken Spell to cast a spell for their bonus action, which would normally cost you 3 sorcery points, cast a level 5 spell, or whatever level spell you want to cast, and it will not cost you any sorcery points, nor will it cost you the spell slot to cast that spell. You can also use it to create sorcery points. So say you need a bunch of new sorcery points. You can activate this ability, use the thing that allows you to create more sorcery points, select a level 5 spell spell slot and use it, and you will not use up that level 5 spell slot, but you will get 5 sorcery points. It works with any resource. Anything that costs you a resource, this works with, and it's absolutely insane. Now, one thing that I did notice that this ability does not work on is things like your paladin charges, so your lay on hands charges or your channel divinity charges. For some reason, it does not seem to bypass those. You will still use those even if you have this ability turned on. I'm pretty sure this is a bug, just like the fact that it's bugged that it keeps resetting, because it reads charges and other similar resources. So this would lead you to believe that this is currently a bug and that you should be able to activate this and use abilities that would use up those types of charges and not actually spend those charges, because it does indeed work with your sorcery points. So it should work with things like your channel divinity, key points, and other such resources. So just in case some of you don't realize how insanely strong this is, let me paint a little picture for you. You start off combat, you make sure that your character is hasted. You can haste yourself, or you can have somebody else haste the character that you plan to do this on. You then cast Black Hole to group up a group of enemies. Your character that is doing this is a sorcerer. You then cast a level 5 fireball on those group of enemies. You currently have 2 level 5 spell slots. Then you activate Freecast. You then activate Quicken Spell. You then cast another level 5 fireball onto that group of enemies, preventing you from using up your sorcery points that you would have used to cast that, as well as your level 5 spell slot. This means your very next turn, you can then follow up, because you have 2 actions, with another level 5 fireball starting right from the get-go. For your second action, cast a level 4 fireball, then use Quicken Spell to cast another level 4 fireball. Or you can use Black Hole for your first action, regroup the enemies back up, cast another level 5 fireball, then use your Quicken Spell to cast a level 4 fireball, or Lightning Bolt, or whatever high level damage spell you want to cast. However, currently, Freecast just stays active, allowing you to cast spells for free every single turn and cast a level 5 fireball or whatever high level spell you wish to cast for free every single turn, as well as using your Quicken Spell every single turn for free, which I really hope they fix, because it is extremely hard not to abuse this ability in its current state. All right, that's all I have for you for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it helpful and informational. If you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. And if you're looking for some more Baldur's Gate content, you can find a link to another one of my videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.